We're going here. Yeah, we're going. Today is October 29th. It's just shortly after 1 o'clock. And we're about to do some Python Django, I think. I had a request. And we're going to look at that right now. Look at that. Build fails. All right. Okay, so what we have going on here is somebody's assignment from school, obviously. That's interesting. And the question was about code review relative to this. So very, very briefly, just looking to see what I can see. Doing some graphical work that may be outside the scope of what I'd be willing to deal with today as far as Django. Dots and lines. Let's look at the assignment. Create a dot picture. Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm not going to deal with graphics. Just not going to happen. But I am going to discuss how I would do it. I assume he's using TK or something like that in order to actually generate a platform. You may also consider Pygame. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but that gives you a nice graphical platform to work on, and it's a Python object, so it's really easy to work with. But I would probably use HTML5 and a stage object and use some Ajax JSON calls to have some JavaScript do this. I probably wouldn't do it in Python. Anyway, let's have a look from the top in terms of style. For me, I don't skip a line after the 3 quotes. The very first line in a file explains what that file is every single time. This matches the Google standard. I like that he included all the details about his project in that opening doc string, so that's pretty good. Star. Never, ever, 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 ever. Do I need to say it again? Okay. So no stars ever, explicit imports only. Now, I can think of a case where a star is required, but you all can't. So never use a star. And this TK is the graphics engine. As I told you, he's probably going to use TK. Same thing in Java, right? You have TK in Java. Same. So, yeah, this is what the name of the window is. In order to write a good test, I would bust this string out into a constant and import that constant into my test and test whether this graphical window actually is named what it says it's named. So constant number 1 there. These are mutable, so lowercase is correct. Integer length is drawn. I really like this as a Boolean. The word is in front of a variable implies that it is a Boolean variable, so I really like that a lot. Good form there. Okay, so yeah, undraw. This must be a global for this win because he's not passing it in an object here at all. So this dots comes from this global. So, okay. I already see here that he's using a global variable, right? We've defined this at the top of the Python file, and then he's using that variable inside his function. Anybody have any comments about this? No, it would seem a pretty standard practice. However, for me, anything that's outside of a class, method, or function is considered a global input. So if you import midterm project 2, you're going to get lines, dots, circles, labels, length. You're going to get all of that as parts of your import. So probably less than ideal. I would probably encapsulate this whole thing in a single class and have these be class attributes versus global variables. And then anytime I'm dealing with whatever it is I'm dealing with, I would call that directly. So in this case, dots would be an attribute of my main class. So I just self dot dots, and that would give me all the dots assigned to my current class. It's better than using it as an open global variable, because if you ran this more than once, this variable could stay and you could clash and all these kinds of things. So better to encapsulate it in an object. Sorry for the sniffle. Been one of those days, been going a mile a minute. Okay, moving right along, just in general, yes, I like the docstring. All docstrings must end in a period, very important. Also, this could all go on one line. The blank lines here are not required. I might use a list comprehension for this rather than doing it as a general for loop. Better, stronger, faster, possibly. Everybody? Yeah, please. Oh, do I need to have it say args underneath that, even though I'm not passing any args? No, that's against style. You only put in what is absolutely necessary in your docstring. Very good question, though. It also doesn't return anything here. That would also go in your docstring if you're returning something, so not returning. Anyway, good. This blank space is probably not necessary. Once again, not necessary. So let's just quickly move through the rest of this. Remove last dot, and it says dots pops. Okay, so he's popping off the end of this list, so you're getting the last item. Right, last in, first out. Okay, pretty good. Just removing the last thing. Load. Once again, end with a period here. See these strings? Yeah, these are string keys, probably constants, probably need to go at the top of the file in order to be really usable, because then your tests would use the same string keys as your actual software. So there's no clash there. Once again, dry. If you're going to repeat yourself ever, consider moving that out and don't repeat yourself. Repeating yourself is a horrible thing to do. So happiness, this is the file name, right? And just to discuss the dry idea here, right? I have that same string twice. That means it's taking up random twice. It also means that I could, in theory, make a spelling mistake. So the solution is a constant, correct? Constant. No string, but I really like you, Amy. You're awesome. All right, so moving right along. Happy. Here. X underscore Y. Brutal. Is it or is it not? I can't tell by the variable name, therefore not really a great variable name, right? So probably touch that one a little bit. Count here, typically for me, if I'm running a counter, I actually call it counter. I don't call it count. Just as a general practice. This nice, he's using an in statement here, that's correct. This should be count plus equals 1, not count equals count plus 1. Mod, very nice. I'm wondering why we're inting this, because the chords are all integers already. So unless you're mutating an integer with a decimal or a float, it's going to stay an integer, so you may not need to re-integer.
How do we know they're all integers?
I'm guessing right this second. Here's XY, file contents. I'd have to look at this file. I'm not sure what this dots.dat is. I think it's here. No. So I actually don't have the file. So once again, I'm not sure. But if I had to guess, the coordinates are all integers, at which point don't int and int. You're wasting a cycle. Append. Nice. Extra spaces maybe not necessary. Ooh, evil badness, right? Floats are evil. Why? Why? Use double. It's still a float though. What do we use? Decimal. Yay, somebody's paying attention. Right. Why? Precision. Precision. You want your math to be right every single time. I could show you a demo easily of float failing math. It just does not do math well. Why? Because it's doing binary operations. And what decimal does, it actually does the math and makes sure that it comes out right, and it does it faster anyway. So no float, use decimal. This times 0.1 should be 0.1. And once again, we're repeating ourselves, so I can tell you already, yeah, probably not. We need that needs to be out in a constant, not put in here. And I really wonder about this math going on right here. I might encapsulate that so I can test it, because you can't test here. You're guessing that this is going to be right based on the output of this function. So once again, test-driven development, look at what you're going to test before you write your functions. That way you don't have to be all like, oh yeah, I need to test that too. Anyway, moving right along. Good, I like the encapsulation in parentheses here, but this and this, where he actually uses the word this, that's a JavaScript carryover. Obviously, he's a JavaScript programmer and or a Java programmer. We don't use this in Python, so probably not a good variable name. High and low, typically I use min and max, just letting you know. Once again, these integers here, they should be constants and put above. Happiness, constants, constants, constants. Doc strings. Here we go. Arguments. Yay, happiness. So I would probably bump a line down, and it would be points colon, and then the understanding list of points. Nice. Good. Yay. Doc strings are very important. I like to see that. -5. Once again, constants here, not actual values. Here's a little math. Square root. All kinds of nifty stuff. It looks like the quadratic equation, actually. Anyway, this you absolutely have to test. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So is this the right place for this? Absolutely not. It's definitely not. I would create a function that does this and call that function within this function and then test both. Main, nice. Drives the bus. I like that. That's a good comment. Once again, use string literals. Don't use string literals here. All right, happy, pretty good. Not bad, man. More docstring comments explaining task flow, and the units are a little large. I like that he's using a variable here for this. What's wrong with this variable? Okay, it totally would have been better with a Boolean front, so is. Ooh, that's not what I was going for, but we'll discuss that. What I was trying to pull out is this is camel case. We don't do camel case in Python. And what you're saying, Amy, is that we don't need this. We can actually just make this while true and have it loop. I agree. He actually asked me about this specifically. The reason I don't is because I can break my loop by setting this Boolean to false. So as a design pattern, that allows me more flexibility. So rather than a static here, I like to use a variable because then for some reason I want to get out of this loop, not by breaking it, but by actually exiting gracefully. You can just reset that Boolean and you're good to go. Okay, enough of that, unless somebody has questions about this.
Well, there is no place in that loop for it.
He's not using it, I agree. However, as a rule of thumb, Snicker, I do use a variable there rather than hard coding it. So if at some point I decide I'd like an out, I can do it that way. And once again, there are no tests, so this code is nowhere near done. Everything needs to be tested. Okay, good. Let's get back into our little Django world and talk a little bit about that. Does anybody have any questions from last time around? Really? So everybody understands everything? Go ahead. Ah, good. Yeah. Can I see? There are pound signs in your settings.py next to the admin lines. You need to take those pound signs out. How do I know these things? Okay, so let's run our little app here. Tuesday's class, and today we are going to do some stuff that I don't know about that you guys are going to tell me what we're going to do. Last time we did a motel. What shall we do this time? I'm just trying to look for a name for my project. Bueller. Don't make me name it Bueller. I'm store. Oh, I like store. Oh. Project. Ooh. Store. Right? Now, because I'm using Django 1.6, I'm actually ready to rock and roll immediately. And here we are, and this is now 127, and as we see, it's up and happy. Our admin is there and good, and it took us, what was that, 3 commands? Right? We did our admin start, project, store, then we changed to that directory, and then we ran manage sync, and then run server. And miraculously, we're already up, ready to rock and roll, good to go. So now what do we want our store to do? What's probably the first thing we're going to do? Start app. And what's in our store? Department. Deportment. What are we going to see? Views. Okay. URLs. There's one file that you're always going to see every single time in a Django app. Models.py. It's required by the framework. You don't have to have admin. You don't have to have tests. You don't have to have views. You have to have models.py. Have to. Okay. So last week we covered foreign keys and model relationships. Do we want to go down that road, or do we want to look at views and templates? Views. She says, I want some view action going on over there. So I am in favor of following what the class would like to do. So I'm going to open Eclipse, and we'll go ahead and dig into that views.py right away and see if we can get a view up. I don't use Perforce anymore, but it's still running in my Eclipse. I use Git, which I really, really like. I need this URL. Woo. All right. And we're looking at our views. Come on. It's not going to give it to me. I'm on. Okay, fine. I got to look it up. I just don't remember what the core reference is to it off the top of my head. When you all memorize the Django code base, you can be all like, I would have gotten that. Yeah, it's template. There it is. Yeah, generic, of course. I should have known. Okay, and now we need to view it, render it, sorry, my view equals my view, I believe as view is correct. Okay, and in order to make this fly, we have to give it a URL, right? So we can call, why am I doing that? So not only do we need a view, we needed something to point to that view. And I'm just going to use the main pointer at this point. So here it is in urls.py. And go ahead and use this root one, and it'll be, what do we call it? Is department. Is it my view, I think I called it? My view is correct. This name is so we can reverse, so I can look it up by this rather than having to figure out what the URL is. Okay, so there's that. We still haven't added the template, but we should be able to at least see it 127. And it should say, I don't have a template. No, it should say I'm not running is what it should say. Edge, man, edge.py run server. Yes, that's right. So now we actually need to put the templates in the system, right? And let's have a look at this in this view. I'll make it a little easier. Oh, sorry. Temp. So Tuesday's class. I should do it this way so we see it in the tree because that's a little easier to understand. Tuesday's class, here we go. Store. And here's our department. Here's the views, and we're pointing to it from this URL. So we need to do one other thing. That is, we need to add our new application to our settings. Right? We do that under I am by myself. It's supposed to be funny. There's a room full of people here. You can never tell, but they are here. Okay. Oh, I'm ahead of myself. So I added it to settings, but we also need the template, right? That's what's whining here. It's saying, I don't have a template. I don't know what my template is. So what do? We make a folder called templates. And it needs to be in its name because this is shared across the whole Django application. So you want it to be in the name of the folder that matches the application we're in. So we're in the template department for the department application. And I believe we called it myview.html. Leave it to Ben to catch my spelling mistakes. And we're going to put this in clips again so we can play with it a bit more. And did he get it right? He did not. Not sure why I didn't get it right. Come on. There we go. Did he get it right? He did not. Did I spell it wrong? Template name? I bet I just called it template. Yeah, I just called it template. Name. How about now? Oh, and it's my view template. Ooh, that's what you were saying, huh? And here we go again. Did I spell it wrong? Must have spelled something wrong someplace. Oh, really? Template. It should have. Store, department, templates. Oh, it doesn't want me to separate this out. That may be a change. I need to mental note that. So we're going to put this right here. Yeah, let's try again. There we go. Helps if you put it in the right place. And, as you saw, all I did was read the error, and the error told me what was wrong. I just have to actually read the error. So in 10 minutes it took us, and that's because I was sitting here talking. I probably could have done it in less time. So you create your view. I'm creating a simple template view. You point your URL to that view, and you're done. Now I did also import that application, but you should have to do that regardless if you're using a view or not. And I had to make a template, which you'll have to do regardless anyway. So once again. So a view. Quick and easy. This is the easiest kind of view. It simply points at an HTML file and delivers it to the web. So I now pass the torch back to you and say, okay, there's how you make a view. Now what? Do we make more views? Do we talk about models? Do we talk about queries, or views of models, or views of queries, or the admin, or Python weirdness, or Python weirdness? Loops and lists. Okay. So let's run some Python in a view. What do you think? Let's do some basic math, and then we'll, oh my, and then we'll go from there and see what else we can produce. So let's change this to, let's, oh my gosh. Trying to do this stuff off the top of my head. Oh, what am I doing? Get context. Get context data. There we go. That's what I want right there. I even wrote it down so I don't have to do all the work. Right, so I want to add something to my context so I can deliver it on my template. So my view is what I'm supering, and get context data, everything else is fine. My variable, and we'll just call this, oh. Okay, now how do I see my variable? This should be a really easy answer. What did I just do? I added my variable to the context. So now when I look at my template, that variable's in there and I can see it in my context. So in, oh, come on. Okay, it says no. So I'll do it this way. My variable is now in my template. I added it by adding it to the context of my view. This is true for all the kinds of views, model views, template views, list views, any kind of view you want to use from Django. They all have context. And if you want to shove something on a web page, you simply add it to the context and then call it from your template. So, yeah, go ahead. Okay. Sweet! And this is very good encapsulation. I would give whoever wrote this an A+, because you've taken the logic out of the view and put it in its own testable unit, at which point I can call my test function and make sure that it actually returns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a very simple test. So good units. So let's do something a little bit more fun with my test function. Shall we? And we talked about you wanted to do lists. So right, and then we'll just go ahead and return. And what are we going to see? Right, pretty simple, yeah? This is probably a bad variable name. Yeah? Are we on, that didn't
No,
make
I
sense.
think after you declare a variable, like you have it in a for loop, like you're making items there, so you can iterate through that list.
Oh.
You have to declare type item.
So it'd be like string item, right? Something like that in order to declare.
That's like more like it.
No. Yeah, no, Python's duck typed. If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So we don't have any of that. We don't have hard typecasting or any of that. It doesn't exist. I can build it in, but by default, no. Which is awesome. If I was passing in, I could cause it to be a list only. So I could specifically define it, but that's not style. Python specifically doesn't want you doing it like this. This would catch compile errors in theory. So if somebody was calling the function with an integer, it would throw an error earlier than previously, but with our test-driven development, that should never be the case. So you shouldn't need to deal with any of that. Exactly. Totally. All right, and yeah, I'm not following. Item is assigned one letter each because it's treating the string as a list. Instead of creating item, but you still want to iterate across the string? In Perl, you can do it that way. But why am I looping across a list if I'm not checking each element? Right? You're saying for with no variable assignment, right? And it's like for each. List.append, right? And then it would go through random stuff and append that to an outlist. Okay, so here's my, okay, fine. You want to be like that, do you? No, 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 no. No, 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 no. I can do it without item. So we want outlist to be item for item in a random list of stuff. That's a list comprehension, and that is the most advanced loop generator you can do. Very fast, extremely efficient, and yes, I am creating this variable here, but it actually doesn't last because all I'm doing here is creating a list. It's generating that list. It uses a generator, and this is called a list comprehension because it uses a generator. Versus here, where you're correct, I'm generating this variable and I'm passing that through every time. So this is a lot heavier than this. So this is extremely Pythonic. If I see somebody write something like, oh, somebody knows what they're doing. So, yes. This is the right thing to do in this case. So it just depends. If I'm performing two actions here, now I can't use that list comprehension, at least not well, because I'm creating more than one list, right? I'm doing more than one thing. If all I'm doing is I'm taking a list of things running it across a generator and coming out with a list, that you should use a list comprehension for here. Which was leading me on to the next thing that I really wanted to talk about, which is complicated, and so I'm going to use an example so I'm not talking out of my buttocks. I don't like their example. How's that? Yeah, hang on. I just want a nice example. I'll do it myself if I don't find one in 2 seconds here. There we go. There we go. Yeah, blah, I don't like any of their stuff. So let's see. Now I am going to do things that are going to seem very strange. I am removing my list comprehension because we're not talking about that anymore. Actually, I don't want. I want my alt list to be blank because I'm going to add to it. And we are going to call my generator. I must have closed it. No, oh, this is Python, the new Python. Python 3000. Right, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Let's have a look at the code that I used to generate it. Now, Amy should be going, wow, that's very different. And the answer is yes, it's very different. This is a generator. What I'm doing, I could just put range 0 to 10 in this location right here. I'm sure you've seen us do this before, right? I could just range. That results in the exact same thing. But instead what I'm doing is I'm using a function to generate that list of items. The key here is that I'm not actually constructing a list. No list is actually ever generated. So the actual RAM overhead is very small. What happens is, as my iterator here moves across this, this is called every time, and it steps as it goes. So we're just creating the information we need on the fly as we need it. So it's extremely efficient. Go ahead.
What does it yield and return?
That's right. I'm creating a generator. It's an iterative return.
So return 10 times.
Exactly. This is one of the most advanced concepts in Python. And it is envied by most other languages. This is very unusual. Most other languages don't have this capability. And it's really useful. I've used this many, many times across. If I have a complex list, you actually open the list, parse the list, and output it with a generator, so you don't actually have to make more than one copy of that list in RAM. You just iterate through it as you go with the generator. Very, very, very efficient. So the take-home things I want to make sure that you take home today, it took us about 6 minutes to get this web page up from Python and serving. So you should feel very empowered to use Python as a delivery tool for the web. Any kind of content you want, you can generate with Python. Your velocity in Python is higher than any other language being used commercially right now. So if you generate it in Python, you're going to put it out more quickly than you will in other languages. So really, really good choice. Django's templating is extremely robust. You can do anything you want with that. So combine HTML5, Django templating, and objects that stay models, and you have a complete stack. You can write your own web applications that do anything you'd like, store or hotel or whatever. You break them down into pieces and put it into existence.
Something that looks like complete steps or stack.
Sure. I mean, there's a bajillion JS libraries you could add into that. That would give you all kinds of really great JS backbone or something like that to give you really amazing functionality. I, of course, was raised in Google Closure, which is another set of JavaScript libraries that give you Ajax functionality to and from. So everybody thinks they could generate a template view in Django? YouTube. YouTube is good. Yeah, my class will be up there. You can always look it up again. So yes, what we need to do coming up here is come up with a project, and we'll work on that. And let's make it a little bit more complex this time around and combine a few aspects and see how that goes. So between now and next class, we are to come up with a project, and we will start working on that together and manifest it. And it can include your Ajax pieces. If you want to include some JavaScript, we can do that. But we'll also test it on top of that, so we can do some testing, and you can see how Python unit testing is done properly.
The one thing that I'm concerned about, there's like a project I have in mind that I've been working on with my friends that would like to use Django as a backend for.
Okay.
I'm concerned that if I work on it here, it becomes a copyright issue that I can see.
Okay. Don't do that. Abstract out the parts that you find most intriguing, and we'll weave that into whatever project we're doing here, and that should answer your questions abstractly,
Sure.
Whereby you don't have the problem you're asking about. Good? Does that sound like a good assignment? How are you feeling? You're on my team, so it's really important. Yeah? Okay, good. And yeah, in a couple of weeks you'll be able to work on the analytics engine, and then you can work for real. So you've got a little bit of ramp-up time left to go. Any questions you have, you better get them out quick. Good? How about you, other teammate? Better? Making progress? Feeling it?
I have problems in it. So I think I should.
Okay, all right. And you should both make sure you're using Django 1.6. That's the problem you had earlier today. If you were using 1.6, you wouldn't have that problem. So we should get you moved over to that. 1.5, yeah, we should get you moved over to 1.6 so you can keystroke to keystroke match class, so there's no weirdness. The rest of you, do your homework. Don't just come to class with nothing, damn it. So next time we're going to do a project and, then actually produce something, which is kind of amazing. And hopefully we'll do something complex eventually. Maybe that'd be kind of fun if we did something rather complex. Okay, that's it then. Enjoy. We'll see you next time around.